I always want to learn the science of Kickstarters because I see people that run successful Kickstarters and then I see people that can't get their fucking Kickstarter kickstarted, which is funny.
Mark and LKC have done enough Kickstarters to where Mark is a pretty good source of advice and information as to like when things should be done, how often you should post, and who you should try to contact, And really, it's about how many people you bug. Bug everybody you know and bug everybody you don't know, and you got to get over that sort of awkwardness of like talking to someone trying to sell them on something,
You gotta pop your cherry on the first one, man. That's the toughest one, man. That first one, it's like you don't even believe that you can actually do it, even while you're doing it.
Yeah, man, it's like I said, like I didn't know, like I wasn't planning on making a book, so I wasn't really, my own brain wasn't stopping me and how daunting the whole task was, because it wasn't something that I was gonna finish ever, but it just kept doing it and organically had an ending. And again, I had no pressure to release it. I was just kind of having fun,
Other than that, how's it going, man?
Man, I've just been dealing with a Kickstarter. It's been great. I mean, I feel like I've been doing so much with the Kickstarter that I can't concentrate at my actual job. Like I go to work and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to do anything. And then I'd rather just go like online and check the Kickstarter and then like do a couple of like promotional ads for Instagram and then to post on Twitter and this and that and that. Then I'm done with all that. And I guess I got to work now. Like it's real hard, man. I don't want to work.
That's crazy. I always want to learn the science of Kickstarters because I see people that run successful Kickstarters and then I see people that can't get their fucking Kickstarter kickstarted, which is funny. What do you do, or does Mark have you guys like in like Kickstarter training camp, like boot camp or something? What do you guys do?
I don't know if it's so much like a training camp, boot camp, because I feel like we're all figuring it out as we go along. But like Mark and LKC have done enough Kickstarters to where Mark is a pretty good source of advice and information as to like when things should be done, how often you should post, and who you should try to contact, I mean, definitely when I ran a Kickstarter 2-3 years ago for one of my books that was not under lesser known comics, and it didn't make it. And I really couldn't. I had a kind of a lofty goal, but I also couldn't really figure out why. I thought I did everything I could. Then when I ran one with lesser known comics in partnership with lesser known comics, Mark was basically hooking me up with like podcasts and telling me when to post and kind of guiding me through it. And that one succeeded. So there is somewhat of a formula, but really it's also like a crapshoot. Like you could be expecting very high numbers off the bat and it could be kind of slow, it just depends on like, have people been paid that week? Maybe they haven't, I've had a lot of people tell me like, hey, I want to, but I just waiting for Friday, or something like that. And I just got to keep bugging them, and really it's about how many people you bug. Bug everybody you know and bug everybody you don't know, and you got to get over that sort of awkwardness of like talking to someone trying to sell them on something,
Yeah. All right. Cool. No, that's a good perspective to have. And like I said, I'm always wondering that shit. It's like, obviously I'm always mentioning that I'm starting my own project, and it's like, do I do a Kickstarter with it? Do I not? And obviously I'm in like early stages for that shit, but I see like Nami where he's like, yo, fuck a Kickstarter for issue 2. It's like his shit is already massive. Like he's been blowing up on TikTok and just so many shit. But then I have other people that mainly create and fund their project off Kickstarter, and then everything that's sold after that is gravy, is profit. So it's just cool to see the science of it. And YouTube, what's going on? I forgot to introduce this, but today we have an awesome guest. We have Rey Garza. He is the creator of Tank McGregor. It's under lesser known comics. Round of applause, man. Round of applause. There we go. We got space bounty hunters, robots, all kind of shit. I like it. Look at that. Super girthy. I got up to the part where, and I don't want to spoil it for people, but where that prostitute robot met all of the other robots. I got right up to that part. I love projects that have the, I guess, like art style that is like attractable to like kids. It's like that Saturday morning cartoon, but it's like adult theme. It's like Family Guy, Futurama, fucking Rick and Morty, like all of that shit. So tell me, man, what influenced you to create this project?
Oh man, So I don't even know. Like, I feel like I've always been drawing my whole life. I've been doodling and being pretty artsy when it comes to like drawing. And but my path in life led me more towards film and filmmaking. That's where I majored in, and that's the career that I was chasing. And after a while, I managed to do a couple of short films and a feature film, and I worked on some productions. But after a while, it just became harder and harder to get a film off the ground and to have a whole crew basically believe in your vision and trying to get people like, hey, let's make this movie. It's going to be cool, but I can't pay you, but it's going to look good for your portfolio. And I just got tired of doing that whole hustle. And, but
Yeah,
I became slower and harder to do, and I just wasn't doing it anymore, and I was feeling very creatively bankrupt, or not bankrupt, but like dry. I just wasn't getting it out creatively, in any
it's
way.
like that mentally bankrupt.
Yeah, exactly. And but I still wanted to, tell stories and be creative. So I reverted back to drawing, and I started. I took this little 15-page script that I had back in the day that I wrote a long time ago, and I wrote it as an animation, and it was Tank McGregor, and I just decided to just make it into sequential art. And little by little, I just started drawing it and making it into a book, and I wasn't really intending to make it a comic book. I wasn't intending to finish it. It was just something I was doing on my off time, on my hobby. Whenever I would feel like tired or whatever, I just go and draw a little bit, and that's why it took so long to make. But after a while, I just had a completed book, and I decided to just then have someone color it, and I got it colored, then I got it printed, and I have all these things, and then I got the attention of lesser known comics, and they were great, good enough to publish it for me, and now right now I'm now on my second book. This is a book two. Tank McGregor and the Cosmic Colossus is something that took only 2.5 years to make, as opposed to 5 years that the other one took. But yeah, and it's like the continuation. It's like a grander sci-fi adventure. Having finished the first one made me realize that I can do this. It's something that is doable, and not only doable, but
Yeah,
it's well received and fun, and people want more. At least the people who read
yeah.
the first one want more. So it's a huge inspiration to, and a good morale booster to continue and do another one. So 6 years, 5 years after this whole endeavor started, I have two books now, man, and I want to keep going.
You gotta pop your cherry on the first one, man. That's the toughest one, man. That first one, it's like you don't even believe that you can actually do it, even while you're doing it. And I guess that could be for anything. But once you get that first one down, I would imagine that everything else is kind of like easy peasy. Obviously, there's gonna be hiccups in the road all the time, but mental wise,
Yeah, man, it's like I said, like I didn't know, like I wasn't planning on making a book, so I wasn't really, my own brain wasn't stopping me, and how daunting the whole task was, because it wasn't something that I was gonna finish ever. But it just kept doing it, and organically it had an ending. And again, I had no pressure to release it. I was just kind of having fun. The second one, I did have some
right?
pressure to finish something, but like you said, it just became easier because it's like I did it once, like that wasn't so bad. Let's do it again. Boom.
How'd you get on Mark's radar or lesser known comics radar?
I had just finished my first book, and I was starting to promote it any way I could on my Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, my friends. I was just posting little bits and pieces here and there, and I ran into a an ad. I don't know if it was an ad. It was more of a post that Lesser Known Comics did, and all it said was Lesser Known Comics treating artists like humans since 2020 or something like that. And I like that motto. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I wonder who they are. And I went to their
Yeah,
website. I saw they had a couple of books. I saw what they were kind of doing. I decided to reach out, and I reached out to the only name that I saw of, I think it was whoever posted that post. I reached out to them, and they never got back to me. And I waited like 2 weeks, and then I reached out again, and I did a little more sleuthing, and I ran into like Mark's name somehow. I saw like in the website, like the people who work at the company, and I saw that Mark was like the top one. I'm like, gonna email this guy, and I emailed him. I think I emailed him like twice more, and then he finally got back to me. And basically, I was just like, "Hey, I like what you guys are about. I have a book. What can I do to get it in your hands?" And he basically was just like, "Send it over, and I'll read it." And I sent it over, and like I want to say, like within the week, I was on the phone with him, and we were just chatting, and shooting the shit. He's a cool guy.
Definitely super chill, man. I like that, yo. I like when it's like smooth. It's not like you had to fly all the way to freaking DC where Mark lives and knock on his door. It's like, yo, I just sent 2 emails and then he
Yeah,
got
with like
back
a
to me. He sent it
backpack
to
and
him.
shit.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. I think about all the people that hit me up in my DMs that like my DMs are flooded. It's like I can't get to everything. It's like mentally draining. It's not that people don't want to, or at least for myself, it's not that I don't want to read people's projects. It's like, yo, I can't fucking get to everything.
Yeah.
I'll have people that have reached out to me like months ago, and it's like, yo, I know I planned on reading this, but I just can't because snowball effect on my other areas are rolling in. It's like, hey, I have been actually Mark has been busting my chops to read one of his projects for so long, and I couldn't like get to it. And then I forgot what happened, but I was like, all right, let me check out. Oh, I know what happened. I was on live and I was like, you know what? Let me pick out lesser known comics. And then I picked out a bunch of different stuff. And me and Lonzo at Concrete and Onaji, we were picking out. I was like, yo, you're going to rate these projects. Pick one for me to review. And I ended up reviewing like all of them. I was like, fuck it. And one of them was Digital Lizards of Doom. So then I
Oh,
reviewed it. Yeah. And then I hit up Mark. I was like, yo, this project is unique. It's not like a regular comic book series. And then we would just been chatting, and he been telling me about all of the creators, all of the stories. But he told me about Tank McGregor. He sent me I guess the promo ad that you guys made for Instagram Reels or TikTok, and I don't know if you used it for the Kickstarter. But I was like, all right, I got to check this out. I mean, space bounty hunters. It's like all of that stuff is like right up my alley.
which one? Which video was it? The one where like the guy in his apartment, he's reading it, and it's like an
Yes,
old
yes. He was
1940s
like,
announcer.
yep, that's
Yeah, yeah,
exactly
that's the
it.
one I
That's
made for the
exactly it.
Kickstarter. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You have a lot of influences from. Did you grow up in the 80s or the 90s?
I grew up in the 90s. I was born in 85. So
Okay, there
I
you
guess
go.
like a little bit of both, but really the 80s, I have very, very little memory of growing up in the 80s, you know?
Okay, and it's weird that you say that because I was born in '89, but I have a ton of different memories from the '90s.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't consider myself a 2000s. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, but I get what you mean though. Like, I mean, I technically do have memories of like those 80s years, the 80 through, I mean, probably more like 89 and 88. Like I remember movies and stuff like that. But I feel like my injection of pop culture didn't start until like the 90s, you know, when I started being able
Yeah.
to see more television. And in fact, when I learned English is when like the injection of pop culture really started coming in to my
Okay.
purview.
I was gonna ask one of those questions. Garza. That where is that from? Where's your family from?
Mexico. So I was born and raised in Mexico, but right on the border with Texas. So I grew up
Okay.
bilingual. And where I'm from, it's basically I was on the Mexican side, but it's basically one giant city with the American side, just separated by a river. So I
Okay.
lived in Mexico, but I go across the bridge and study every day in the U.S. And we did that for like the first 18 years of my life. When I was 18, we basically got our immigration papers and we kind of moved just across the river
I guess that shit was like super easy to do it back then, right?
to just cross back and forth. I mean, it seemed easy to me. My parents probably were having a hell of a time with like paperwork and shit, but like to me, it was always like, oh yeah, I always had a passport, you know. And yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
mean, I
have
also
friends
have
that.
memories of like, and it was way more lax, yeah, because I had a family who had like land right on the river, like a ranch right on the river, and I have
Mhm.
memories of like playing with my cousins crossing the river, like just to the U.S., like swimming over and then swimming back and swimming over, swimming back. Like it's like wow, I feel like either it was a lot more chill back then, or there was like some border patrol like just keeping his eye on us, you know, with like a fucking sniper rifle or some way, making sure we didn't like go any
Yeah.
further in or something, you know.
I'm gonna chalk it up that maybe it was just easier just because it was back then. Because now on the news they make it seem like, oh, the border and there's walls and snipers and there's underground railroads to get in here. It's like I have some friends that are from Colombia, just like different areas that actually kind of like just migrated here and crossed the border, and they have crazy stories, but nothing that was like, you just make it seem like it was so simple. Obviously, that's your reality, but
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And I don't know what someone else's reality is. Maybe it was a lot
yeah,
harder for other people, and maybe it was because we weren't really like going in there to like work. I mean, we weren't crossing the.
yeah,
We're going like deeper into the country. We were just kind of like playing around in that area, But I've had instances where I've been hanging out with my friends, and I see like families like crossing over with like bags and
mm,
shit. It's like, oh wow, well, good luck to them, I suppose.
yeah, yeah. It just has to do with the opportunity here, man. It's like, and especially now, it's like, think about it. You can create your own indie comic, and it's tough to, obviously, we have like the big players like DC and Marvel, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, it's indie, but at the same time, it's like you could build up your following and still be indie. Um, so it's just cool that coming here, using the opportunity, and just kind of living out your dream, man. That's dope. What
Yeah.
what's something from the '90s? And I actually shot a review for Tank McGregor that I'm editing right now.
Oh shit.
What's like, yeah, what's different stuff from the '90s that influenced the characters, the setting, like everything?
Well, the character of Tank McGregor is like an amalgamation of all the like 80s and 90s action stars that I loved. Van Damme, Stallone, Schwarzenegger, the
Okay,
classics. To a lesser
I mentioned
extent,
Stallone.
yeah, yeah. It's like to a lesser
Kind
extent,
of reminds me of like RoboCop and Judge Dredd, like with the mask.
yeah, man. Like he was meant to be like a mix of both of those actually. Judge Dredd, especially because he'll never take off his mask, and I'm like, that's gonna be a Judge Dredd thing. And initially, he was even more RoboCopy. The actual visor, though, I changed so many times. Yeah, I did so many iterations because I just wasn't happy with it. I didn't like the way it looked. It didn't. It was either too complicated or too simple or just not iconic enough. Eventually, I one night I was watching Johnny Mnemonic. I don't know if you ever heard of that movie, Johnny Mnemonic,
No, I never heard of that.
with Keanu Reeves, and it's like a cyberpunk '90s movie. And at one point, he
Okay.
puts on like a VR headset, and he puts on this like thing, and it looks identical. It's basically that's where I got it from. It's like the Tank McGregor visor. I was like, that's what it is. I'm going to use that, and I basically just kept it like that.
Yeah, shit. It's simple. It's simple, and it doesn't. It's not like too overpowering. Like sometimes with Judge Dredd, it's like all I remember is his mask. Like I don't even remember the storyline and everything. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I like that he has like the leather, like Fonzie jacket. Obviously, he uses guns. That's
Obviously.
that's super dope.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love.
Exactly. That's another '90s thing. I mean, just the whole like shoot first, ask questions later is a thing that was really popular in the '90s. I feel like what
Mm-hmm.
Marvel movies are today, action movies were in the '90s. That's what everybody was like. That's that. Those were the movies that were making the money, you know. And it
Yeah.
didn't matter how big budget you were. If you were an action movie, people were gonna go watch it. And Van Damme was a bankable star. Like I don't think you see that nowadays, where you can get a star who's bankable just based on his like karate skills.
I would say The Rock is up there.
But The
I
Rock
would say
does
not
have,
that he has not that he has karate skills, but as far as like the action superhero type of trope, The Rock, that I would put him up there.
yeah, I guess you're right. No, yeah, because he's mainly more about charisma. But I would argue that The Rock actually does have some acting chops. At least in the beginning of his
Yeah.
career, he used to take more risks. Now he just plays The Rock and everything. Um, but I mean, he was in Be Cool, and he did Southside Tales, or whatever the movie's called. Like he took some risks, and he was actually exploring his acting skills. Now he is more just about the face.
Yeah, I just recently just rewatched it for the hell of it. I rewatched Predator 1, Predator 2, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Those movies were freaking amazing.
Which one's your favorite out of all
Amazing.
of them,
Out of all of them,
though? Yeah.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Oof, nice. Yes.
That's that's probably one of my favorite movies. It got to be at least top 15 on my list of favorite movies.
I mean,
The
it's not
way
just a
just the
good.
way that it's shot, what'd you say?
It's not just a good sequel, or it's not even just a good Terminator. It's a good fucking movie, like in general.
Mhm.
Like it's a good action, one of the best action movies ever made.
I think I saw Terminator 2 before I saw Terminator 1.
Same.
So obviously you could see the huge difference between the movies. Like Terminator 2 is way more elevated than Terminator 1 is. Terminator 1 is like a classic beginning stage like 80s movie. But then when you get to Terminator 2, that's where it's like box office, like, oh, this is going to make money in like the actual movies.
Yeah,
Just everything from when what's his the kid's name? I always forget his
John
name.
Connor.
But when he's like, yeah, John O'Connor, when he's like in the arcade and then he's running from the police, and then the liquid fucking machine is like chasing after him, and then he's running in the back of the mall, which we used to do when we were kids. We used to sneak around, and
Yeah,
then you see freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger with like the thing of roses, and it pops out and it's a shotgun. Like that scene, it always gives me goosebumps. I'm like, this is the shit I fucking live for,
so
man.
iconic. Yeah, I also saw Terminator 2 before Terminator 1, and I remember being really like back then as a kid, it didn't really even strike me as Terminator 2 would being a sequel. I just thought it was just Terminator. So then when I found
Mm-hmm.
out that it was like there was a first one and that he was a bad guy in it, I was kind of confused. I was like, "What? Like in the first one, he's a bad guy? I don't understand." Like it's
Yeah.
and the first one's a horror movie, really more than anything.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. It's pretty much Jason, just a robot
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
future.
like an
That's
unstoppable
literally what
killing
it is.
machine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
excellent.
I even remember in Judgment Day when Terminator's trying to convince the dude who works for Datadon or whatever. He's like, "Yo, I'm the robot that like you're working on the hand,"
Oh,
and then
it's
he
like
cuts his arm open and rips it off. I'm like, "Yo, this blows my mind." The freaking Terminator ride at Universal Studios. I don't know if you've been there. I've
yeah.
literally ridden that ride like 25 million times. It sucks that it's gone now, but oh my god, man, I freaking love Terminator.
Yeah, I rode it once and never again, only because I don't live anywhere near it. But like, I'll probably, I mean, I have very good memories of that ride for sure. It blew my mind, and I feel like
Oh
that
yeah.
scene with the arm, the metal arm, nowadays it'd be CGI, you know. Which,
Yeah,
like,
a
not to knock
practical
CGI,
effect.
there are some really good CGI out there, but something about it being practical and like being done on the set is really badass.
Yeah, I feel like practical effects is definitely making its way back, but there's very few people that could do practical effects and CGI well. One person, James Gunn. James
Mm.
Gunn is phenomenal when it comes to doing things that are practical, but then also having CGI. Like either or is not overbearing.
Yeah, yeah. CGI should just be used to enhance what's there, not to overtake it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what a lot of people
Absolutely.
don't realize or even care to do. Really, I mean, I would say Guillermo del Toro also does a good job of that, and I'm thinking specifically
Mm-hmm.
of like the Hellboy movies. There's a lot of practicality in those movies.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Is there a lot of CGI in Hellboy? I feel like Hellboy's a lot more practical effects.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot more practical effects, and there's some CGI. Like whenever like say
Hmm.
like the creatures are all there practically, but if Hellboy were to grab one and like throw them across the room or whatever, it switches to like CGI for like a second, and then like they switch back.
Yeah,
So it's like a mix, you know.
gotcha. Yeah, Hellboy franchise is good. I feel like it's not getting the love that it should be getting. I know they're gonna revamp it and they're gonna have a new person playing Hellboy.
I feel like
Um,
people have stopped caring. I mean, there was some excitement when they rebooted it the first time because they're like, "Oh, someone new. Let's see what happens. It's going to be darker. It's going to be grittier. Oh yeah." And then it was just one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. So like now they
yeah,
actually already finished filming the new one, and no one cares.
yeah, yeah. That's one of the things. Like when you're making your project, and I ask this to pretty much everybody, do you make it just so it's standalone comic, or do you make it with the envision like, hey, down the road this could be animated or this could be a movie?
I've been told that Tech McGregor is pretty well set up to be like an animation, and I wasn't thinking of it that way, but maybe subconsciously I was because I love animation. I want to make animation. If I had the patience, I'd be making animation right now. It's something I want to get into is like the world of animation more beyond just
Okay.
enjoying it on TV. But yeah, no, when I was making the books, they really were just about living on the page. Now, I wasn't envisioning them being a cartoon or anything. And they're
Okay.
self-contained stories. But speaking of Hellboy, I kind of based myself a lot on the way Mignola did the Hellboy books, which is they're all individual cases, right? They're individual adventures. But Hellboy himself is going through an overall journey and like an arc, and what happens to him in one book carries over to what happens to him in the second book. So in Tank
I like
McGregor and the
that.
Cosmic Colossus, which is the second in the series so far, it's a completely new adventure. It's a completely new bounty that he's on. But the character himself remembers everything that happened in the first one, and he starts off this book as a reaction to the stuff that happened to him at the end of the first one.
Okay. 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 I like that. I like that. I like that. Um, what? So outside of that, what other movies inspired you for, let's say, like the space genre? So we got the movies that inspired you for the actual character Tank. What about the space genre, the robots, all of that stuff?
Dune was big when I was writing this.
Okay. I
Not
wasn't. I guess yeah. I could see Dune with like the desert planets and everything, but I wouldn't go to. I feel like for me, I wouldn't like have thought Dune.
you thought Dune? I mean, like,
No, I didn't think. I didn't think Dune. I
oh, you,
thought.
oh,
I mean,
oh,
I
oh,
thought
you didn't think
Star
Dune now.
Wars.
And now I'm talking about Dune, like the David Lynch version and the book, because the Dune movie
Hmm.
that is popular right now didn't exist when I made Tank McGregor.
Okay.
So
I watched the original Dune. I like the original Dune.
yeah, I like it, but not for the reasons that you would think. I like it for how bad it is. I really enjoy watching
Okay.
the movie. Kind of hate watching it and how like oh my god. But like I read the book like
Did
twice.
you when did you first see it, and did you think it was bad like back then, or do you think it's bad now?
I thought it was bad the moment I saw it. Yeah, but the thing is, and I saw it when I was for the first time I saw it, I was in college. I think I was a freshman in college, and I saw it, and I thought it was bad. But the ideas and the universe, I was enthralled by it. Like
Yeah.
interested enough to where I got the book and I read the book and I thought like this book is tight. It's really cool. And then I just kept watching the movie. I've seen the movie so many times. Every time I like date a new person, I show them the movie. And when I met my wife and I married her, and like it was like a few months into our marriage that I was like, "Hey, we should watch Dune," and she's like, "Okay," and I'm there like explaining everything, and she's like, "Why do you like this?" And like I'm like, "I don't," but like, isn't it great? Like I don't know. So Dune was a
I'm the exact opposite. When I see like corny or like weird stuff like that, I fucking gravitate to it more. Like The Labyrinth with fucking David Bowie. I fucking love that movie, and I don't know why. That movie is so freaking amazing, and I have no idea why. It's fucking Jim Henson puppets, David Bowie, and a fucking like weird ass practical effects and world. But that movie just has like a special place in my heart for some
yeah, and
reason.
like a child Jennifer Connelly. It's like insane. I don't know that movie exists.
Yeah, I always get her confused with Demi Moore. Like I was like, oh,
Oh,
this is Demi Moore when she was younger,
I
but
can I
no,
can see
it's
that.
some other chick that kind of looks like each other. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. So definitely Dune for like you use like you said the desert planet and they have like spice in Dune and here I kind of mentioned like in the first one I kind of mentioned Fisk like Fisk is a drug which I felt
Mm-hmm.
like Fisk spice kind of has the same sort of like
Okay.
tonality. Um, I watched a lot of I love Futurama. I love Cowboy
Yes.
Bebop.
Okay.
So I took a lot of inspiration from those. Cowboy Bebop, probably especially. I mean, the guy's a bounty hunter,
Mm-hmm.
Cowboy Bebop, it's all bounty
Okay.
hunters. Not so much sci-fi, but yeah, kind of. Mad Max. I love Mad Max, and like I feel like Mad Max is one of my biggest inspirations for everything I do, not just these books. Um, and yeah, those would be like the sci-fi, and like the Terminator and all that. Those sci-fis are also cool. And obviously Star Wars. Everybody's been inspired by Star Wars. I mean, I don't mention it, but
Yeah.
because it's so cliche. Oh, I love Star Wars. Yeah, everybody loved Star Wars back then. Now it's like very touch and go.
Yeah. That's immediately what I thought. It's like bounty hunters, space. Just the aspect of traveling through space. When I first think of that, I connected to Star Wars. I know there's some people that connected to Star Trek. Star Trek's a little bit different, whereas like with Tank McGregor, it's Tank with his robot Jensen, and they're traveling through space. It's like small parties, whereas Star Trek is just like a fucking massive ship, and it's like multiple people are controlling shit.
Yeah,
So
Star Trek
that's why I connected it to Star Wars.
and Star Trek is definitely also inspiration. Just the idea of like crew and stuff. I mean, like the very first word of the first book is like space. Like in Star Trek,
Mm-hmm.
they always like space, the final frontier,
Yeah,
and that's actually a line in the first book: space, the final frontier. But then I take the piss out of it and like subvert it and like make a joke out of it. So I kind of call
Where,
attention to the reference, but I just take it my
okay.
own way.
Where do you come up with like the jokes and the dialogue? Or do you have help with that, or is that just like all you?
That's all me, man. I mean, like every now and then somebody will say something, and I'll like, oh, that's pretty funny. Can I use it? And I'll ask him for that. And like every now and then, like in the second book, there's a few things. There's like a line or two that like Mark came up with, just because he said something like, oh, it'd be great if like Tank McGregor went to like the school of cosmetology, etiquette, and bounty hunting. And I thought that was really funny. Like, oh, there's a school of like etiquette and bounty hunting, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's going in the book. You know what I mean? But for the most part, I'd say like 99% of the time, it's all me. It's just like things that I find funny. And it's just a matter of like writing it over and over and like iterating on like the jokes and just things sometimes that I would say in everyday life without like not thinking they were funny. And my wife would laugh, or my coworkers would laugh. And I'm like, oh, okay, I jot that down. Like, that's kind of funny. And then I try to make it a way to fit it into a story and narrative, and just just like that.
Okay.
Just come up like random things in life.
I get it. I do the same shit. I have two of like my closest friends, and we argue about like politics and just like random shit all the time. And a lot of the shit that just comes off the top of my head in like the heat of battle when I'm like super angry, I'm like, yo, that shit was fly. Like, let me write this down and make like a piece of content on it later. Like, I just did that for the Little Mermaid shit because my two friends, they're like, oh, why'd they make the Little Mermaid black and shit like that? It's woke. And then I'm like, who the fuck cares? It's like, yo, there's way worse shit that they were doing than fucking making the Little Mermaid black, and you guys are worrying about it.
He's like,
And
you
I was
guys,
like, yo, they fucking made Chris Evans Buzz Lightyear. Y'all didn't hear y'all fucking complain about nothing. And then I'm just thinking of all this shit, and I'm like, yo, I need to write this shit down, and then I fucking create a piece of content out of it.
yeah, dude, it's like you guys didn't give a shit about the Little Mermaid before you saw this. Like, why do you care now?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, and I always want to find something that I could flip and make it so it's not necessarily about like because I don't care. Like I understand why people don't, want characters to be race swapped, and I also understand why people do want it. So I always want to take a situation and then flip it on its head, and then have people either like entertain, laugh, or really think like, yeah, why do we really give a shit about the Little Mermaid when we didn't care about all this other shit, and this other shit should make us mad too. It's just like, yo, it's just that's a hot topic right now. That's it.
Yeah, I feel like people love to be offended, and these things are really easy to like grasp onto and make a big deal out of. I really couldn't care less when people are race swapped, but I also see, like you said, I see the both sides. I see why people would want things the way they grew up in their childhood, and it affects them to see something change because suddenly they're losing their childhood. And I see why like little black girls would love seeing a black Ariel. I see both sides completely, and ultimately they're nonsense arguments. Like, I mean, or problems that don't really matter in the long run. But there they are. At the same time, I feel like there's this thing in Hollywood where like they like race swapping characters, and people always get angry and they do it anyway. But like, I feel like they would never race swap Black Panther. You know what I mean? I know that's like the
Yeah.
argument. Like, I wouldn't want them to race swap Black Panther either. But I mean, I feel like, I don't know. Isn't like it all fair? Is it all fair game, or is it none of it fair game? You know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like, and don't quote me on this, but as far as like race swapping, you have to race swap a character where it doesn't like really matter to the storyline. The thing with T'Challa is he runs the most powerful, richest, amazing empire in Africa.
Yeah.
So it's tough. Like you can't really make a white person, that. Like the whole thing about Black Panther is that the Africans in this specific area, which is Wakanda, kind of separated themselves from the world. So like it's tough to do that. Whereas like you'll have a character like fucking Tinkerbell, who's a fucking fairy. She could be white, Chinese, Spanish, whatever. It don't matter. Like the race or ethnicity isn't necessarily driving the storyline of Tinkerbell. It's the same thing with the Little Mermaid. Now there's some people that are like, oh, the Little Mermaid, the story originated in blah blah blah, and it's like, all right, cool, I understand it, but at the same time, it's a fucking mermaid. Mermaids aren't real. They're an actual fictional creature. It's not like it's a human. It's about a creature that wants to be a human. She's half fish.
Yeah,
Like,
you're absolutely right.
you're upset about her skin color, but her fucking fins are purple or green or whatever. It's like, yo, gee, this ain't real. So yeah, I think the thing that at least African Americans, I can speak for us, is that in America, when they have made movies based on fictional or timepieces, and they just race swap it just because we're not gonna fucking hire minorities to be in these fucking movies. We want it to sell. Like, white people run everything. So, and whatever, that was the time period. So I'm gonna have a white person as Cleopatra. I'm gonna have a white person as this Native American. I'm gonna have white people as this person who's a predominant figure in Asia and China, Japan, or whatever it is, because majority of white people are going to see these movies, and of course other minorities are watching it, but that's not the main demographic. But as time goes on, as more things become equality, all of those movies that Hollywood has made, you kind of have to answer for them now, because now it's like, all right, cool, you guys have done this throughout all the years, and it's like we ain't spending our money for it now. So now Hollywood's trying to correct themselves, and maybe as they correct themselves, they're going overboard by saying, all right, cool, now we're going to make all the cool people that were white, now we're going to make them different nationalities. And yes, that's us like apologizing, like making it good. It's like when you, I don't know, have been not treating your wife right, and now all of a sudden you want to go over and beyond, and you want to buy her flowers every 2 seconds, and you buy her $5,000 jewelry, and it's like you're trying to get on her good side again, and you overdo it.
Yeah,
That's exactly what Hollywood's doing right now.
yeah,
Now,
they're
will it correct
overcompensating.
itself over time? Yeah, I believe it'll correct itself over time. It's like, look, in the indie space, it's like sooner or later, Hollywood always runs out of ideas, because Hollywood is not creators. Hollywood is, and don't get me wrong, there are some creators in Hollywood, but majority of Hollywood is just execs. Execs saying, hey, how can we get IPs that make money? Eventually, Marvel, Star Wars, Star Trek, all of this shit is going to come down to, hey, what's the new shit that we can get? And that's when they're going to be start looking at creators that are in the indie space, that now they can start to create shit. That's how you get a Walking Dead. That's how you get a I don't fucking know, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I guess, I mean, yeah, dude. Like, if it's in service to the story, it makes sense to keep races the same and all that. I mean, you're absolutely right. Did you see? I just saw this like ad for the Little Mermaid. Speaking of which, and they showed like a scene where the Little Mermaid is with all her sisters, like all of King Triton's daughters, and they're all completely different races. And they're like, "Yo, King Triton got down, man. Like, he has a bunch of baby
Yeah,
mamas."
he did, and it's like, yo, all right, cool, I get it. It's like you're trying to make this appeal to everybody. I think one of the things is like, yo, like when you're prejudging or judging these content, ask yourself, is it really because you care, or is it because they're fucking with your nostalgia button? I feel like that's what's really getting people upset, is we don't like fucking change, which is why I said, hey, fuck that new Teen Titans, go. I miss the old Teen Titans. But in all actuality, it's like, Teen Titans Go. It's whatever. It's for the new generation. It's for the kids. Same thing with Cowboy Bebop. People hated the Cowboy Bebop Netflix series. I thought it wasn't that bad. I wasn't the most major Cowboy Bebop anime fan. Like, I watched it when it was on Adult Swim. It was cool, right? It wasn't my favorite one. I was waiting for like Yu Yu Hakusho and all other shit. But like Cowboy Bebop what was cool. But I thought the Netflix series was, I thought they put effort and money into it. But a lot of people think differently.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because they were pretty accurate to a lot of things, but they kind of got the characters wrong. And in a weird way, that kind of turned everybody off. It wasn't even a race thing, like, because I thought Jet was fucking excellent in the show. Like, he even sounded like the cartoon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Same with Faye, or maybe they were upset that Faye wasn't like fucking like wearing a swimsuit the entire time, you know? I don't know what I didn't finish that show either. Like, there were some episodes that really just kind of took it their own way, and they made like Vicious, which is the main antagonist, which is he's really scary in the cartoon, and he's like, oh,
Yeah.
something to be feared. In the show, they made it so that he's kind of like this whiny guy that has like higher ups, and he's got to answer to them, and he's afraid of them, and it's
Mm.
like, this guy, he doesn't seem like that big a deal, you know.
I could definitely see that.
Yeah, things like that are what bothered me about it.
Okay.
But
That's like in the Aladdin live action. Like, remember when we watched Aladdin when we were kids? Jafar was fucking menacing, like
yeah,
scary.
yeah.
This Jafar, I felt like I could fucking like go in there and shoot the fade with him and beat him up. Like, he was not scary at all. His voice wasn't menacing. Like, nothing about him
He seemed like
was
he was
scary.
our yeah, he seemed like he was our age, you know?
Yeah,
I
it was
don't
like,
know.
yo, this ain't Jafar. Like, I don't know. This is fucking. Never mind. I don't
It
even know.
was
I
like
don't
some
even want to
rapper
talk
they
about that.
chose. I don't even know, man.
Yeah, he was not scary or anything at all. But I can understand that in Cowboy Bebop. But like again, like that's healthy critiques of projects. It's not just saying throwing terms like woke, throwing terms like race swap. It's like, was the movie good though? Did you even watch the movie?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'm hearing Little Mermaids doing numbers. I didn't see it because it's not for me. My kids are two. I'm sorry, my kids are 3 and 1. They're not old enough to sit in a movie theater. I don't even think they're old enough for like a live action yet, but I'm gonna watch it eventually. But again, it is what it is.
Yeah, man, definitely. I like how this turned into a bashing of Disney movies.
Yeah, I know, and I love Disney movies, man. I don't wanna throw too much shade on Disney.
I mean,
It's all
they're
good.
okay. I feel like they used to be better. I feel like Disney right now is too concerned with, like we were just saying, like demographics and checking boxes instead of making an actual good movie. I mean, they care more about the bottom line than actually. I mean, like go back to like a few years ago when they were making that movie John Carter of Mars, which they just called John Carter. So that was going to be
Yeah,
Disney's Star Wars, man. It was like their sci-fi adventure,
yeah.
and they put a lot of money into it. And what happened is they ended up not really marketing that well and kind of like putting it like throwing it under the rug and not really even supporting it that much. And you're like, I wonder why Disney put all this money into this property and they didn't even support it. Oh, well, it turns out they were right smack in the middle of buying Star Wars. Hey, if we're going to have Star Wars, why would we want to care about like even like shepherding this one? Fuck this. Let's like focus on Star Wars. We're going to have make millions off of this. And it went,
I
they
saw
flew
that
outside.
movie and I don't even remember that shit. Like you just mentioned that, I'm like, who the fuck is John? I'm thinking John Carter like it's a football movie or some shit like that.
Are you thinking of Coach Carter?
There you go. There you go. Basketball. Samuel Jackson. All right, cool. Is
Yeah.
that Disney? That's not
No,
Disney, right?
no,
No.
that's just
Remember the Titans is Disney.
yes, that's a good movie.
Cool. Yeah, very, very good movie. I remember watching that movie a million times. I feel like between that, Disney definitely had a lot of movies like that. Those are good movies. Like
Hmm.
those
Yeah,
timepiece where you can make shit at, like those are good movies.
they don't do that anymore,
I
man.
can
They don't do standalone movies like that about like a football team and things like that anymore. Now they're all about that franchise money. I mean, they just do movies that set up other movies.
look. I mean, think about it. Like the economy has been volatile since COVID. Disney's just trying to do a lot of stuff to get in as much money as possible. Like we see them purging their streaming. They're purging a lot of shit. They're removing a lot of shit. Like Willow, right? Willow, you watch Willow, obviously, the one from the 80s.
I saw
And
it in
then
the
they did
'80s. Yeah, I didn't see the show.
the show. Me and my wife watched it. It was not good. I'm not gonna say it's not good because it was diverse and shit like that. No, I'm gonna say it's not good because the fucking writing and the acting
But
was not fucking good.
why would they purge it? Like, what do they lose by leaving it on there?
So what I was reading in the article, fucking don't quote me. I mean, whatever. It's not like they're gonna see this anyway. But basically, what happens with the streaming apps, and this is also why there's the writer's strike right now. It's because it has to do with royalties and it has to do with them paying it out. Right? I'm paying $8.99 for streaming. That means I'm paying $8.99 for like 1,000 different pieces of content that I probably watch like 0.005 of it. So if everybody's spending $8.99, that means that if Disney has 100 million subscribers, that's 100 million times $8.99. But then what happens is as you start to lose subscribers, which is what's happening to Disney Plus, that means you still have to pay out all of the whatever royalties, whatever contracts you have for all of those pieces of content until you remove it from your streaming platform. Then you don't have to worry about paying them because it's not on there, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's why Disney is like removing shit, is because hey, we're losing subscribers, we're losing money, and we can't really dish out all of these royalties and shit. And if we canceled you and you're not getting a second season, and nobody's really watching it, it's like you're out of here.
Yeah.
And it sucks because streaming was supposed to be a way that you could just keep shit up and watch it forever. But as more companies lean into streaming, they got to figure out ways that they could become profitable too, which again, it does make sense. Like if we're looking at it as a business wise, if I'm looking at it as like a fan or just a regular person, it's like, yo, what the fuck? Like, just leave it up there. Like, you guys are fucking greedy, money hungry. But at the same time, it's a corporation.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. That makes sense.
Yeah. And all that's allegedly. I've read a couple articles and saw a couple videos, but
No,
who's
that
to
makes
say?
sense. Yeah, a lot of writers are fighting over like royalties and stuff, and I would have just thought that like Disney owned it 100%, so they didn't have to pay out anybody, but they probably have to pay out royalties to the creators. That's why they just
No,
canceled
yeah,
it.
they own it. So basically, what it means is like, all right, cool, you own it 100%. You still got to pay out everybody. Whereas, like, let's say if and Disney doesn't really do this, but I'll use like Netflix for an example. Netflix had The Office on their platform, so they're paying NBC a huge boatload of money to have The Office streaming on Netflix, and then when
Mhm.
they pay it to NBC dishes out that money between the cast, crew, whatever, however they want to do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then NBC's contract with Netflix goes up. Netflix has to remove The Office, and now The Office is on NBC's app because they have their own streaming. So now they're making more money per stream, per dollar, whatever it is, because now it's on their app. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, cool, interesting. And I feel like I had this convo with Mark because I'm always asking. I was like, all right, so how do you broker deals with the people that have their project on your website as far as like digital downloads and actual physical copies? And he kind of broke it down a little bit. I'm not like the IRS. I'm not trying to go and tell all of his business and shit, but I just want to get an idea.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, no. Yeah, man, I don't know. Like, speaking of the whole Disney thing, I just really, I get really turned off by the whole idea of them just basically, like I said, like putting checking out boxes and stuff, and just kind of like, oh, what's gonna make the most amount of money? I don't care if like we're all in a recession. It's Disney. Like they have the fucking money. They're just being greedy. The solution here for not just Disney but everyone is to create content that doesn't cost $200 million per movie. They waste so much fucking money on the wrong things. And these movies are costing 250
yeah,
million, and they're like, oh, they're considered failures when they make 300 million. No, that movie's a failure because 300 million is not enough. It's like, yo, 300 million is a shit ton of money. You telling me it's a
it
failure?
is.
There's something wrong with the system when that's a failure. They got to go back to making movies that are like good, solid stories for less than 100 million, fucking less than 50 million even. Like fucking how much did Deadpool cost? Deadpool was a huge success, not because it made a shit ton of money, but because it cost so little to make. And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly everyone's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Deadpool!" Like, and what they got from that movie was the wrong thing. People thought that movie made a lot of money because it was rated R. Oh, so now Logan's going to be rated R, and now these are going to be rated R. It's like, no, bro. Like those movies made money, and they were good movies because they were well written and
yeah,
true to the characters.
yeah. Yeah, I fucking love Logan. Deadpool was cool too. I feel like sometimes when I have too much like jokey joke weird stuff, then it kind of like tunes me out a little bit. But Deadpool was cool. I love the first one.
Mhm.
Second one was good. Loved Logan. But what you were talking about, so let's kind of like scale this down. So you're saying that they should stop having these massive budgets, shrink it down, pay
Yeah,
attention to quality and story or whatever, and then build from there.
I mean they're
Well, let's
inflating.
kind of.
Yeah, they're inflating
I was
these
gonna say
budgets.
let's scale it down to you now.
Oh.
So, how do you create your project instead of having like pretty much like everybody do everything for you and like have this massive budget? So then you have to create a Kickstarter campaign or whatever, sell X amount to make your money back and then make a profit off of it. To then like shrinking it down, getting it low cost, so then you can mark it up whatever or make money. How would you go about doing it?
You're talking about like in film specifically, or my book projects?
No, I'm talking about for your comic.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I've drawn my whole life, so I felt like I could draw. So I wasn't dependent on
Okay.
anybody in that sense. I know a lot of people who like want to make a comic, but they're trying to find the right artist and like the right this and write that. I didn't want to have to do that. I wanted to do it all myself, you know. And I grew as an artist. I grew as a writer because I was doing it myself. And that was, I mentioned that I come from a film background, and film wasn't working out for me anymore because I couldn't get people to help me out. And what attracted me to comics was that I was completely self-dependent. You know, I didn't have to depend on anyone else to just work on it whenever I wanted. Put my vision 100% into the pages. The only thing that I
Okay.
did outsource was the colors, because at the time I
Yeah.
wasn't very well versed in like just color theory, and it wasn't really came naturally to me the what colors would look good, and I would,
Colors.
yeah, I would try to color it, and it would just look bad, and I'm like, I don't understand why these look not as good as these professionals, you know. So I decided to
Yeah.
not color it
A
myself.
100% getting you.
Yeah,
A hundred
yeah,
percent, bro. A good colorist, and that sounds like a weird word to say, but that's what they are. A good colorist will fucking bring your project to life.
and that's what happened, dude. Like I found the right person, Michael Woods, who is the colorist of both my Tank McGregor books, and I don't remember how I found him. I think I found him. I honestly don't remember how I found him, but I saw his website. I was on his website, and I'm like, this guy, and I'm going to contact him. And I asked him, well, what does he think? What his rate is? And I showed him my book, and he's like, yeah, I'll do this for you. And we've just grown since then. I mean, he's like, I consider him a very good friend, or a really great collaborator. Never seen his face. I've never spoken to him like live
What?
action. Yeah, I've never seen his face. I've
Really?
never spoken to him like even through like Zoom or anything. It's all been text or email for 5 years. Text or email. I think we're both equally
I feel like
recoup.
if you're gonna color my book, I need to see what you look like. It's like, yo, if you don't put yourself together in real life, how could I trust you with my baby? It's like, yo, I need to see what you look like.
Yeah, no,
I'm
dude,
only joking, but
I
yeah,
trusted him purely on his skill, and I was like, this guy is going to color my book because he's amazing, and
well,
you can tell how
that's
much he's
good.
grown as well as a colorist from the first one to the second one. I mean, even he'll tell me like, hey, I feel like I've learned a lot. I mean, he was already an incredible colorist, but he'll tell me like, I feel like I learned a lot from here to here. You mind if I go back to these and change them? And I'm like, yeah, go for it, dude. It's your thing. And you know, he'll do it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the best projects that I've read, you have like that solid relationship with the person that does the artwork. Like I did an interview with Mark Reels and Delino, and they're like fucking like they're like bros, and like that's super dope. Another creator, Carla, she created um, Luna, and she has like a relationship with her artist. And I told her, I was like, don't fucking lose this artist because this artist is going crazy on these pages. And she's just like, yeah, it's like I give them the script and the vision, and I just say, do whatever you want. Because I don't want to like make them upset or mad or anything to leave me for somebody else. And it's like, yeah, those relationships are solid and key.
So you draw, or you outsource your drawings?
I draw, but I don't draw like I'm not professional. I'm not for my project, I'm definitely not drawing. Nobody wants me to draw for my project. Like I just draw just for fun. Like I've drawn like a couple of like my friends as like superheroes and shit like that. But other than that, like I haven't drawn in a minute. Like what I'm doing now is video editing. Like I'm learning how to edit videos, how to just do different shit, how to bring my personality out while I'm editing videos and just doing all of that shit. That's kind of what is like my artistic expression right now, which is cool. And I've never really edited videos before I started creating content. Um, so I've literally just kind of like self-taught all of this shit to myself.
Nice, man. Right on.
Yeah, it's good, and I'm starting to see that this is actually like a super uh I don't want to say like I mean I guess profitable or just like useful skill because I have people hit me up all the time talking about the video editing and shit, and I'm just like, maybe this is just like coming to me easily because like I'm able to do it. But for the same reason that people see that in me, I see that in other people that can draw and color and shit like that or write stories. And I'm like, yo, this shit is awesome. And they're like, oh yeah, it's what I fucking do. And it's like I just sit at a computer and just type, or I sit at a computer and just draw. And I'm like, all right, I'm starting to understand that and see that a little bit more.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm a video editor by trade, so I understand, and I also kind of self-taught myself. I mean, I've been editing my whole life, And that's not what I
Yeah.
do for a job now. So it's like, hey, it helped me in the long run.
I like it. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I want to get. I don't know if I need to get like I don't need to get to the level of video editing where I'm like editing for Steven Spielberg,
Yeah.
but like for as far as like YouTube and social media, like I want to be fucking like kick ass. Like I work for a media company now, and I don't even do the video editing or like social media. I don't know if we like. I don't really like look at people's shit. I don't know if we have people who are actual influencers like doing shit, but I know we have like good video editors, but it's like it's something that I always see in myself is like, yo, I want to be the best fucking social media fucking video editor, video creator, content creator that I could fucking be. It's like I want to fucking take everybody out. One of the things that I'm thinking about is doing like opening up to internships so
Mm.
I could take my knowledge with someone, teach them what I do, and then kind of like collab with them so where they can edit stuff for or with me so I can get more content out. And at that same time, as they start to create their own shit, I'm teaching them all of the skills and all of the cheat codes and all of the shit that I've learned. And then also like if they want to like, leave and go do something better, they can use me as a reference. But I'm kind of like throwing that out there into the universe. So if anybody sees this, hit me up in the DMs. Cool, cool. And so now going back, your way around keeping costs down is doing the artwork yourself.
Yeah, pretty much. Doing as much as I can myself. But it's funny because I'll keep costs down that way, but then I'll like spend a lot of money in things that don't even occur to me that I'm basically spending money in. Like, oh, the book was relatively cheap to produce. Not, it wasn't really cheap to produce, but in the long run, as opposed to what other books might cost for artists and colorists and all that, it was very low cost. But whenever I go to a comic book convention, I pay out. I pay for the booth. I pay for like a nice hotel, and sometimes I like take my wife. And this last time I took my wife and my dog, and it's like, well, the hotel has to be able to house a dog, so it's got to be this hotel.
Yeah.
Well, I don't like this one for dogs, so it's got to. So I spend up so much money on the hotel. It's like I have no chance of making back my booth, no matter how many books I sell. And it doesn't occur to me that like that's a hemorrhage of money that I just like sank in until like much later.
Yeah.
So, but like again, like I'm a terrible salesman. I'm terrible at like the business side of things. I'm terrible about like promoting myself and putting myself out there. But when it comes to like the creation of things, that's what I want to do. That's what I focus most on. That's just everything I want to
Mm-hmm.
go back to. Whenever I feel like, oh man, I'm not a good salesman, I can't do this, and I start feeling the weight of the world on me. I always at least go back to the idea that I can at least always go back to the screen, to the pen and paper, and just draw and create something, and just kind of like lose myself in that, and that'll like calm me
Mm-hmm.
down, no matter how much money I
I
lose.
like it. I like it. Don't say that you're a fucking terrible salesman, bro. If you could fucking get a woman to fucking commit her whole life and existence and future to you, you're a fucking salesman, bro.
Oh, she needed a green card.
Done. You're a salesman, bro. Like, there you go. It's like, yo, if you can fucking do that, you can get people to fucking buy your book. You can get fucking people to be sold out to you. It's like, remember, it's like, especially in this game, it's like people are gonna be sold out to you. People are gonna be sold out to you and your story. And I try to tell that to all the creators that like hit me up. It's like, yo, like, what are you doing on social media? You should be using the shit out of social media. I love Namiware. I love what he's doing because he just posts up anything. His videos don't gotta be fucking crazy. He just posts up him smiling with his book, and it has like a caption like, "Yo, fucking Akira Toriyama just fucking hit up my fucking cell phone and said I want to buy it." Like he just writes the craziest shit, but it fucking pops, it fucking goes. And now he's at a point where he doesn't need to fund his project. And actually, I want to set up a fucking convo with him, but it's like, yo, he's using social media to his advantage, and he's been doing that because he had a clothing line called Namiwear that he was just being creative on social media. It's like you could figure out what you're comfortable doing versus what people actually want to see. I feel like once you get those two things kind of right with each other, then you could just fucking create content that you actually like, and then people will start fucking even more people will know your project.
Yeah, man. There's a lot of it's not a misconception, but there's a lot of people who create with the intention of satisfying as much of an audience as they can, and like, I want to make something that'll sell, and I want to make something that people will really dig. Or people like superheroes. Oh, people like this, they like that. I'll create something like that. Whereas, like, I try to create, and I think what people should do, and a lot of people do this, create something
Oh
that
man, I
speaks to
just lost
you,
you.
create something that's unique to you, create something that you want, and the audience will follow. There will be people. We're not all unique snowflakes. People like the things you like specifically. So
Yeah.
the audience will come. You just got to find them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gotta find them. And I think we could leave it at that, man. Find your audience, man.
Right on.
Well, Ray, this was awesome, man. This was awesome. Like I said, when we had that first convo, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely vibe with you. I definitely click. I think I didn't read your project at that point, but then when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, this is the guy right here. I see why Lesser Known Comics picked him up. But yeah, man. Rey Garza, creator of Tank McGregor. Guys, pick this up on lesserknowncomics.com. He's got issue 2 out right now. His Kickstarter is it live?
The Kickstarter is live. It's called Tank McGregor and the Cosmic Colossus. You can get this book as well as a slew of other rewards from the Lesser Known Comics catalog. You can even get the first one if you didn't pick it up. Pledge right now. It is live right now. You can find the link if you go to my Instagram, Tank McGregor Comic. The link is in my bio. That'll take you straight to the Kickstarter. You can also go and read a preview of it right now at tankmcgregor.com. So, if you find those links, you can eventually make your way to the Kickstarter, especially also on lesserknowncomics.com.
And the shit's girthy. Girthy. I think issue 1's like 128 pages. You're getting what you pay for on that, man. But all right, YouTube, we are out of here. Patreon, we're gonna hang back a little bit. Again, make sure you guys subscribe to the Patreon for exclusive content. We break down the business, nerd talk, social media, all kind of shit. There's a bunch of shit to learn from, and also just fucking hang back. It's like, who doesn't want to hang back extra with fucking dope creators? But I will see you guys later. Deuces.